Hello. Hello, can you hear me? All right, I know you can hear me. Okay, good evening and welcome to the Explorers Club. I'm reading my script, but my name is Stephanie Liu, and I would like to say thank you on behalf of our Natalie Cash, sorry, our public lecture chair, and Richard Weed, our president, as well as our normal host, our regular host, Paul Tange. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Veterans Day public lecture, and I believe this is our fifth. Who has been here before? Who haven't been here before? Ah, welcome. You belong here. That I know. Um, okay, so yes. And what's interesting is before you come upstairs, when you walk through the door, you see that plaque with famous five. So that's probably the best known members of the club, the first to the North Pole, first to the South Pole, first to, tell me. Absolutely. And first to the lowest part of the ocean, which is, I love to quiz people. And the last first. Well, before Mars. I think we are not there yet. Where were we? The moon. Great. And I guess we all assume the last one is Mars, but maybe not there yet. What's interesting is since 1904, the club has really gathered people, created community. I see a lot of very diverse people here, so I presume community is the word we all use all the time. So it has created a community and really kind of focus on scientific expedition and conservation in the land, the sea, the air, and the space. And what surprised me, I've been with the club for about 10 years. I didn't realize until I was told I'm speaking today. No, I'm introducing Russ today. So very impressively, since 1922, on Monday night, we've get together for a lecture. So that's really a living tradition about science, about our curiosity, about the service. So, but anyway, that's where we are. And your presence here keeps this traditional living. So thank you for that. In addition to those who haven't been here, or have been here first time, do we have any members and friends here? If you can raise your hands. Members and friends. Okay, quick tip. If you want to hang out with people, explorers, speakers, afterwards, ask some of them or one of them to ask you to be a guest so you can order drinks downstairs. Continue hang out with them. I know it's weekday, but it will be fun. So Ross is going to talk about what's going on 34 years ago, as well as how a lot of expedition happened actually just over accidental conversation. So that also speaks to keeping our curiosity alive and take action, go to the field, talk to others, collaborate, come together. With that being said, I want to just quickly check, do we actually have any members of the armed forces, because this is a special talk for Veterans Day. Do we actually have anybody? Yeah. All right. So there's one. Thank you. There's another one in the back. Oh, few more in the back. So again, thank you for carrying the same commitment you have to the country, to your work, and to exploration. And I'm totally off script. I know Russ actually has a lot to say about that. I prepared some script. I think I want to return the microphone to him. So Russ Fellow is the Explorers Club Fellow and is the president of the Air Sea Heritage Foundation, who's really driving a lot of the behind the scene to get the team together. So with that being said, I want to just really have Russ coming on board, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Daphne. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome, and welcome back to those of you who are our members. And good evening to all of you around out in the world online. So it's great to be here tonight. I love this club. I love telling this story because it actually originates right here. So we're just going to jump right into it. A lot of you have probably been reading my first slide here. You know, and this is an old adage among members that goes, you know, that many of history's greatest expeditions, and I'm paraphrasing here, but many of history's greatest expeditions and discoveries began at the Explorers Club. But that's not the whole quote. It's at the Explorers Club bar. So, and this one actually, well, it doesn't start at the bar, but it starts right out there. It starts in the stairwell coming up during our last 2024 at what we call ECAD, or the Explorers Club Annual Dinner. And as the name suggests, it's an annual event. It brings in explorers from all around the world. But so I'm on my way down, my wife and I, who is also a member. We met through the club. That's a whole other story. But so we're on our way out, and coming up the stairs is Menson Bound, who's a friend, and he's also, some of you may know, he led the expedition that discovered Shackleton's Endurance in the Weddell Sea. So we stop, we say hello, he introduces me to a friend, he introduces us to a friend of his, Andy Sherrill. Andy is Director of Maritime Operations for Ocean Infinity, which is one of the world's leading undersea robotics and survey companies. So it's great, that's, you know, as you do, that happens at the Explorers Club. So we get to know each other, and, you know, we sit, you know, go on our way, and we make our way to the bar. So, not the bar here, it's down the way. This is the Sunday after ECAD, and another member of ours, David Press, has gathered together just a few of his good friends. And it's part of what I love about this club. It's about fellowship and about getting together and building those networks and talking about your passions and exploration. So Andy's he's at the event as well. So we get talking and comparing stories, and I'm telling about, you know, so as Daphne mentioned, I'm the president of Air Sea Heritage Foundation, and it's a group dedicated to aviation and maritime history. Been a history buff my whole life. Love that, you know, that whole era, you know, well, all eras really, but yeah, so we get talking, you know, and they've done, you know, Ocean Infinity has done an amazing amount of work. They worked some, obviously with Menson Bound. They found the wreck of USS Nevada. They found the Argentine submarine that disappeared several years ago. They found a French submarine that had vanished in 1968. They do this kind of thing. So we're kind of comparing notes about all the things that we're interested in, love, and kind of exchange contact information. And it says, and you, as you do, you say, well, you know, it'd be great. It was great talking to you. Let's get together later, or let's talk about these things in the future. And I mean, you mean it when you say it, but you never you never really expect that it's going to pay off until 4 months later, my phone rings. and I don't actually recognize the area code, or I don't recognize the number, but I do recognize the area code. It's the same area code that my wife has. So I'm like, oh, this could be family, this could be, so I pick it up, and it's Andy. And he tells me, well, Ocean Infinity, they have a mission coming up somewhere in the Western Pacific, and he's had the idea that they could, as they're prepping their equipment, they need to test it. And is there something of historical significance that we could look for while we're doing this anyway? And so I have what I've done. I've compiled this. This is my World Rex map. And just everywhere every so often jot down, I learn about something that's interesting, I'll jot down like a rough location of where it is, and just to have in mind in case the opportunity comes up to do something. And I work with some other friends, Dr. Jim Delgado, who's a well-known maritime archaeologist. He contributes to this. We just kind of keep tabs on things. And so I consult it, and I look in the area that Andy's talking about. I'm like, no, there's really nothing, but I'll keep my ears open, and let's see if something comes up. But right before I hang up, I'm like, Andy, this was really cool that you called, and just keep in mind, if this ever comes up, if you're ever anywhere else in the world, just give me a call, and let's see what we might be able to do. And he says, well, we've got a group that's going to be doing some work in the San Francisco area. Do you know anything in there? And I said, well, hold on. And there's a project that we had started researching 10 years ago, 11 years ago, started working on this with Jim Delgado, this wreck that we knew that was off of San Francisco. Bob Schwemmer at NOAA had been researching it before that. And in 2020, we were actually part of this consortium for ocean leadership, identifying priorities in the Pacific Ocean. And part of that, the Maritime Heritage Breakout Group, we identified 6 signature missions that we thought were of great importance and that we and that had a likelihood of success, and maybe if the opportunity came up, we could pursue it. Number 6 was USS Stewart, DD-224. And as you can see, it's the story of a ship that sailed under 2 flags in World War II. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to launch into that wider story in a bit. But this is something that had come up repeatedly, and every time NOAA was doing work off of that area, we would propose it, and for whatever reason, the technology wasn't there or the funding wasn't there, and so it was just never happening. But it seemed like, well, maybe this is the opportunity. So I started to send Andy material, and I told him the backstory, which I'm going to share with you now. So now we cast all the way back to 1919, and this is the launching of USS Stewart. Actually laid down in 1919, launched in March of 1920 at William Cramp and Sons in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So built actually as a Clemson-class destroyer for World War I. There was a great need to churn out as many escort vessels as possible. So the Clemsons were fast and well armed. They're 4 4-inch guns, 12 torpedoes, depth charges. So for scouting, for escorting, for anti-submarine, these destroyers are really kind of the jack of all trades of the naval service, and they were built in great numbers in World War I. This one was actually completed too late to see service. The war, of course, ends in November of 1918, and Stewart enters naval service in 1920. She's commissioned as hull number DD-224, and starts her service in the US Navy, begins kind of training on the East Coast, is ultimately sent across the Atlantic to Europe, and over the course of the next several decades, works her way until she ends up as part of the Asiatic Fleet, based primarily in Shanghai and Manila. And the idea was they were looking after, U.S. interests in China, Yangtze River Patrol, and they actually participated at one point. The ship was assigned to the search for Hawaiian Clipper when she disappeared in 1938, a Pan American airliner. So as war clouds are gathering, they move the ships, are moved from Shanghai to Manila, and the Asiatic Fleet is made up of at this point fairly obsolete vessels. They're worn out. I mean, Stewart has been in service for the better part of 20 years, and they're really kind of almost the orphans of the naval service. They realize their role is that if war begins, the intention is that the Asiatic Fleet will attempt to hold the line. They will play for time until the bulk of the Pacific Fleet can steam over the horizon to the rescue. But of course, the Japanese had attacked at Pearl Harbor and laid waste to the American battle fleet, so the Asiatic Fleet is essentially on their own. So in December through February, December 41 through February 42, the Imperial Japanese Navy is just advancing virtually unchecked throughout Southeast Asia and the Southwest Pacific, into the area what it was then known as the Dutch East Indies. So they've fallen back now. Now we're into February of 1942. They've fallen back to Java. The Stewart has mainly been assigned escort duties. They've been in a few scrapes. They are ultimately sent in February 20th. February 20th, they participate in the Battle of Badong Strait, between the strait between Bali and Java, attempting to halt a Japanese invasion fleet from landing troops on Java. It's a fierce night action. The Stewart actually takes hits that wipe out the ship's boats. More critically, a splinter from a shell punctures through just inches above the waterline into the steering gear compartment, nicks a steam line. The whole compartment fills with superheated steam and starts flooding. The steering gear is actually 2 feet underwater, but the ship is able to keep way and keep steerage and is able to eventually make it back to Surabaya on the north coast of Java. She's the most badly damaged of the vessels from that engagement, so they prioritize her for repairs and put her into a floating dry dock, a civilian dry dock, which proves crucial because the Dutch workers there have never worked with this type of vessel before. So as the water is drained out, they realize they have incorrectly placed the keel blocks underneath the ship, and the entire ship crashes down on its side and is trapped in this dry dock. The port propeller is driven up through the hull, so now that's holed. It is going to be weeks or months before anything can be done to salvage the vessel, and meantime, Japanese troops are landing on the other side of the island and advancing. So they make the decision they're going to have to evacuate. The crew is dispersed, evacuated, assigned to other ships, taken out of Java, and the vessel, all they can do is set demolition charges and try to render it useless to the enemy and sink the dry dock and the ship as well. And so on March 1st, 2nd, the Allies retreat from Surabaya, and the Stewart is left behind. And that was thought to be the end of the story. And then maybe a year later, Allied pilots start reporting something unusual. They've seen there's an American destroyer operating deep behind enemy lines. And for a long time, no one can figure out what this is, this ghost ship of the Pacific. And slowly it dawns on them what has happened. is that the Stewart, which had thought to have been, had been left behind and thought, that her days were over. The Japanese are now, they're desperate for additional tonnage. They managed to find a way to refloat the Stewart and refurbish her, and they put her into service as patrol boat number 102. So you can see they've done their best. Actually, I'm going to run it back here. They've done their best to disguise the very distinctive outline of this ship. The colloquially, they were known as four pipers for the four smokestacks, or four stackers, and flush deckers. That because of the single deck running the length of the vessel. But it is a very distinctive design, and they were built in their hundreds. But so the Japanese, in bringing it into service, they've done their best to change her profile to make her look a little bit more like vessels in the Japanese Navy. So they've trunked the forward funnel into the second funnel, which is a very common trait on Japanese design. They've given it a tripod mast. They've actually changed out a lot of the armament. They removed the torpedo tubes. They've changed out the guns and the depth charges, so they are things that they can maintain. They didn't have ammunition and spare parts for American built weapons. So the Stewart, as patrol boat number 102, serves in the Imperial Navy in escort duties. We determined that she actually was part of a anti-submarine action in the Philippines that sank USS Harder, American submarine commanded by Sam Dealey, who Dealey Plaza in Dallas was actually named for. But eventually, there's again no spare parts. It's very difficult for the Japanese to maintain, and she is essentially laid up right before the end of the war. Miraculously, unlike most of the bulk of the Japanese fleet, survives to the end of the war to be discovered by Allied forces when they move into Japan after the surrender. So in October of 1945. U.S. forces advance into Kure Naval Yard and discover the old Stewart. And so she is actually taken back into the United States Navy. And when they recommission her, they cannot reuse the name Stewart. When the ship was presumed lost, that name was assigned to another vessel, to a new-built destroyer escort. It was a common practice in the U.S. Navy that if a ship is lost, you assign that name again, and that spirit is carried on, and the enemy is given the message that it cannot be, the U.S. Navy cannot be stopped, and they will keep coming, and so the Stewart is recommissioned. Actually as USS DD-224. They give her old hull number back. And what's remarkable to me, seeing these photos, and there the Stars and Stripes is, raised over the ship again, was how really it strikes you that these are hardened veterans who have seen it all. They've fought their way across the Pacific, and they still view this ship almost like a shipmate rather than a ship. So they put a prize crew on board who are assigned to bring her home. And this is something Bob Schwimmer found. This is the cruise book from that trip. And the crew has actually dubbed it now, they've called it Ramp 224. Now, that is a nickname that comes from a designation. At that time, RAMP was a term for recovered Allied military personnel. So again, they view it really as a returning prisoner of war more than just a reclaimed machine. So she has a bit of a spirit for them. The crew sails her halfway across the Pacific. She makes it to about 50 miles from Guam and breaks down, and they can't fix it again. But they just continue this voyage. They take her under tow, and she's brought home finally to San Francisco. And that's that's a great picture. We have the Golden Gate. I mean, it's very much sums it up when the ship has now, made this epic voyage, and that really, as they observed at the time, she's now sailed basically around the world, leaving the United States and returning back around, by traveling around the world to the east. They put the ship on display for a time in San Francisco, and people come to visit it, including Lieutenant Commander by the name of Charles Best, who was the last man to command the ship before World War II. So he came and returned. Jim Delgado actually knows his family and was able to get a hold of these photographs of him, visiting his old ship again and seeing, what had become of her. The Japanese had transcribed, labeled things, in Japanese throughout the ship, and had converted, different sections for their use, but had managed to keep it going for the better part of 2 years. And that's closer shots of the modifications that they had made. But so he was able to see his old ship and see the changes that had been wrought. But after a few months, they have to decide what are they going to do with this vessel. And she's at this point 26 years old, and has had a hard life. Is really of no longer of any military value, hardly of any scrap value. And I think, again, there's this kind of sentimentality about this old ship. So what they decided to do ultimately was to take her out to sea and cast her loose on the sea, and then give her essentially a Viking funeral. So she's taken as a target, first subjected to rocket attacks from F-6F Hellcats and F-4U Corsairs from the nearby Naval Air Station. That's not enough, so they take her under fire with 3-inch naval gunfire and 40-millimeter cannon fire from USS PC-799. And after about 2 hours of absorbing all of that punishment, she finally rolls over and is sent to her rest off the coast of Northern California. And that would seem to be the end of the story. And what was remarkable to me, was looking back through this and realizing how virtually every stage of this ship's career and lifetime had been documented. We had the from the launching to its service with the U.S. Navy to the being trapped in the dry dock in Surabaya and in service with the Imperial Japanese Navy, the recommissioning, the bringing back to San Francisco, and finally, her final curtain. So we had virtually able to tell every chapter of this story of this ship, except for what is it like now? Like what is she now? And so that had always been in the back of our mind. And it seemed like now, with this meeting with Andy and what they had coming up, that maybe now is the time. Maybe we have a chance to finally do this. So how are we going to find it? Well, let's start here. Go to Wikipedia. It's right here. There it is. We've done it. So I don't know about you guys. I'm like, well, maybe we need to do a little bit more research than that. So actually about 10 years earlier, another member of the club by the name of Lonnie Shore had done research, found a document at the US Navy History and Heritage Command. And here's a dispatch from the port director in San Francisco to the Chief of Naval Operations on May 24th, 1946. And here he said that ex-USS Stewart decommissioned Oakland, California, and then sunk in 1,000 fathoms of water position, and here it is, latitude 38 degrees, 13 minutes north, longitude, I can't read from here, but 123 degrees, 41 minutes west. So, all right, that seems pretty good. So it seems like we're in business. But let's take a step back for just a second. We see here's here's Wikipedia. This is what they've told us. And here's what the archival documents will tell us. It's about 60 miles away. So I'm glad we did a little bit more digging before we looked into this. But we always want to have as much information as we possibly can. So I'm always, at that point, still on the lookout for any more information that we can glean on this. So the internet, though, is still a fabulous tool. And we find that this very useful resource is the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, but they have started a digital archive. And one of the things that I came across in my research was a collection that was donated by the family of a veteran. And there's a name, I can just see his name, it's Windsor at the bottom there. But he had been a sailor on a submarine tender that was and a photographer who was stationed on a submarine tender in San Francisco when the Stewart was disposed of. And so he was sent out on the patrol craft, on the PC-799, during this SINKEX. So he had taken a series of photographs of it as it happened. But one of the interesting things for me was up here. It says, USS Algoma, ATA 212, tows the USS Stewart, San Francisco, 1946. So now I'm like, aha, I've got the name of the tug that took it to sea. So if we can find the log from that tug, maybe we can get a little bit more information. So I'll go to the National Archives and Records Administration in College Park, Maryland. Got very lucky. My then girlfriend, later fiance, now wife, had started a job at the State Department. So she had to go into the office. I got to come in with her, and so I split off and went, out to the archives and requested this log for Algoma AT-212. And so they go pull the files, and I get this log and I open it up, and the ship is in on the 24th of May 1946. It's in Oregon. And they're getting ready to to retire it and dispose of the ship. And I'm like, well, that's not very helpful. But realize actually there's another vessel of the same name, and in fact, the name is not Algoma, but here we get the original logbook. It is Algorma, and Algorma ATO 34. So it turns out there was another tug that was retired later in 1946, and the name was then reassigned to what previous to that had been USS ATA 212, becomes the new Algorma. But so now we're getting somewhere. So let's look it up. Okay, so for 23 May 1946, so here we go. And we find that, and this is interesting, it says, underway various courses and speeds proceeding to Anchorage 7, San Francisco, awaiting arrival of X Stewart DD-224 to proceed. And here it gives a position. So I'm like, okay, that's great, but wait a minute, that sounds familiar. So we go back to the dispatch from the port director. It's the exact same position, sent the day before. So really, what the port director is doing is he's reporting back to his boss and saying, see, boss, we did exactly what you said. We sank it just where you told us to. So we look, we'll go ahead to the next day, the 24th of May. And now here we get to the meat of it. And here we got a new position. So, all right, so I'm figuring, okay, now I feel like we've got a primary source for this. So we feel confident now that that Andy's got what he needs, and this is happening very quickly. This is, he calls me on the 24th of July. 2 days later, I'm getting a text saying we're getting some traction on this. He's talked to the leadership, and leadership at Ocean Infinity is thinking this is a good use of our resources. We want to do this. I mean, so this multi-million-dollar vessel, one of the most advanced in its class, is going to go out. It looks like going to go out and give this a try. So In the ramp up, though, we realize the new position that we have rests within a National Marine Sanctuary in the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. And I have to take a step back for just a second. Is that after this story came out and it was revealed that spoiler alert, there's a wreck in the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. Somebody complained that kind of this corporate naming rights thing has gone too far, and like, why are we naming marine sanctuaries after banks? So I had to explain it's not an actual financial institution; it's a geologic feature. But anyway, so we realized, okay, it looks like it's inside a National Marine Sanctuary, and Andy and Oceanfinity, they want to be sure that we need to make sure we have permissions to be operating in there. Do you know anybody at the sanctuary? So I said, well, I don't, but Jim Delgado actually used to be Director of Maritime Heritage for the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. So get on the phone to him. He makes a call. He's able to talk to the superintendent. They make an exception, a remarkable exception, in that this usually needs a lot more advance notice, but because this is something, it is such a high priority for Pacific exploration, and this opportunity is so extraordinary. They say, and this is Friday morning, and they're like, if you can get us the permit, by close of business, we will review it. And so I take a look. It's about a 6-page form. Jim is in Hawaii on his iPhone. He doesn't have, so all right, I'll give this a shot. Put it together. I get it to Dr. Mike Brennan at Search. He reviews it. We get it in, to the folks at the sanctuary. They review the application, and by close of business, we have a countersigned permit, and we are good to go to take a look see if we can find the old Stewart. So I mean, this is extraordinary. This is maybe unfolding over the course of about a week, and pretty soon, Andy has mobilized his team. They are getting ready for a season's worth of survey work, but they need to tune and calibrate their equipment. So they have Island Pride is on station, and they are ready to launch Kongsberg Maritime Hugin 6000 AUV, an autonomous underwater vehicle, or essentially a drone that you program these. They're amazing. You program them. They will go off and map the seafloor. They can do it for days at a time. You then retrieve it, recover the data, and review it in depths up to 6,000 meters. They are the Cadillacs of this this kind of operation. Here you see them launching. They are getting ready to. I'm hearing of this. I'm like over the moon, thinking that this is the technology that we're going to be able to bring to bear on this question that we've been thinking about for a decade now. And it turns out we're not getting one, we're getting 3. So they divided up. We are starting with the position that we'd gotten from the logbook, and eventually, Andy's thinking like, so are you thinking, 2 kilometers? So, well, no, maybe more like five, because again, these are, positions based on bearings and dead reckoning, and it's not, there's no GPS, there's no Loran at this time. Well, there might be, actually Loran is coming into its own, but there is, these are rough estimates. So we're going to want to expand our search area. They are going to swarm it now. They're going to do launch 3 vehicles. Each one of them are going to cover about 10 square miles and just blanket the area. And in the lead up, so this is happening August 1st. And I remember telling the team before they launched that for me, I mean, one, I've been dreaming about this for 10 years, but it's especially meaningful because my late mother, grew up as an Army brat. all around the country, but landed in San Francisco for high school and went to Berkeley. So she always thought, like, her favorite song was "I Left My Heart in San Francisco." So, and she was the one who really had always encouraged me, you know, when I would talk about these ships and this exploration and things, that she would encourage me to, and my dad, of course, who's here, but they would encourage me to follow my dreams, to pursue this. So as it turns out, August 1st is her birthday. So they're getting ready to, and they're like, "Are we going to launch on August 1st?" He's like, "Yes." And so we have three of these amazing machines that are going to go out looking for the Stewart. And I said, "I think we're going to have a little extra help." So, and the rest of the team agrees that yeah, they think that maybe there's going to be a little extra assistance on this one. But so now's the waiting game. They launch it, and it's designed as a 24-hour mission, and they launch them, you know, in sequence. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting, and it comes to be where now I think of August 2nd now is shipwreck Christmas, because I'm waiting for the next morning to find out what's been left under the tree. So you know, about mid-morning, and we're at our home in California, in Southern California, and the phone rings, and it's Andy, and I said, you know, "Yeah," and he says, "Are there any other shipwrecks in the area?" I was like, "Well, not that we're aware of." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to send you something." So this picture shows up on my phone, and you have this already like very characteristic, like this long, narrow, you know, narrow beam, long vessel. I mean, it's clearly a shipwreck. The scale of it is roughly 100 meters. The Clemson class destroyer is roughly 300 feet long. It's like this is looking really, really good. And I asked him, you know, he tells me that actually this image was from the first vehicle they launched, and on one of the first runs that they made. So it was right at the outer edge of those extra kilometers we had added, and it turns out if it was one of the first runs that they made, it means that this was imaged on August 1st, on Mom's birthday. So I spend a little more time looking at it, and now like the details are starting to emerge, and you can pick out things that look consistent with Clemson class destroyer. So, and as they generate newer and better images, you know, here this is very distinctive. You can see the propeller guards. You can see this aft gun platform, which conforms here. I'm sorry that the resolution is not as good. There would be the propeller guards are actually visible in this photo as she starts to roll over. And Andy's team meantime is just sort of dialing it in more and more. They're getting, you know, better and better imagery of this vessel on the bottom. And I couldn't help but, I mean, this one says it all, really. I mean, if there's a ghost ship of the Pacific, that's it right there. So I couldn't help it. You know, here's the comparison. I flipped the image, but I mean, you can see this is looking, you know, more and more like we've definitely got the Stewart. So as it turns out, Ocean Infinity has more in their bag of tricks. Island Pride doesn't just have a barn full of AUVs. They also have an ROV on board, a remote operated vehicle that runs on a tether here connected to the surface. You send it down it has cameras mounted on it, and you can use this now to go down and characterize what you found, the wreck on the bottom. And the remarkable thing is that not only are you getting a live feed, you know, from the cameras that are on the bottom in what is known as telepresence. It was a concept that Dr. Robert Ballard, another Explorers Club member and the man who found the Titanic, or led the expedition that found Titanic, had dreamed about for a long time. And this being able to project yourself to the seabed, which in this case is 1,000 meters down or 3,000 feet. So better than half a mile deep. So not only does it have that technology, but Ocean Infinity has a satellite link. So now this signal is not only going to the control van on the vessel, but it is being beamed by satellite in real time to my desk in Redondo Beach, California. And it's reaching Jim Delgado in Silver Spring, Maryland. And it's going to Phil Hartmeyer, who's the archaeologist for NOAA in Northern California. And it's going to Sam Perez, retired Admiral Sam Perez, who is the head of Ocean Infinity America in Texas. And he is a former surface warfare officer from the US Navy, so who is now also lending his perspective on this. So now we have this virtual team, assembled as we get down and finally get our glimpse of what's down there. And this is where we first came up on the wreck from the stern, and you see immediately, these angled depth charge racks, which are very characteristic for the Clemson class. As we pull out, now you can see those propeller guards there, which again are a very distinctive feature for that class of ship. Start working our way forward, and you can make out details of the deck house, portholes, lifeline. I mean, you almost feel like you get out and just walk this deck now, just preserved at the bottom of the ocean. This is probably at this point the best known preserved example of a four-piper destroyer in existence. Making our way forward. Now you start to see some of the damage that was caused by those 5-inch rockets that were fired at the ship in its final throes and its sinking. A little further forward, and now we have some detail of the bridge, and this is a gun platform that was added by the Japanese. This is not a standard feature on a Clemson class, so we're able to say now definitively this is USS Stewart. Now seen from the front, the bridge, which is now kind of collapsed over onto the starboard side from the damage that was caused, again, during the sinking exercise. But you can kind of compare that to one of Commander Best's photos from his last visit with his old ship, and it's very distinctive. Again, there's the gun platform, there's that distinctive bridge. And we now know that we've closed that final chapter and found the old Stewart. And that's how that all came together. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have with our remaining time. So do we want to take the microphone out into the audience? Oh, you have one. Okay. So
yeah, we're going to jump into questions. We're going to try and get through as many as possible before we have to wrap at 8:30. I just ask that you get the microphone before you ask your question.
Right. Okay, so we had some hands up. Just, I guess, make your way.
I was wondering, do you have any plans or know of any plans to search for the USS Bullhead?
The Bullhead. I'm aware of that. It's the last major warship. It's a submarine that was lost near Bali, actually. I know there's a lot of interest in finding it. I don't know where that stands now, but boy, that would be a great one. I mean, it's a heartbreaking story. I mean, one of the very last major combatant lost by the U.S. Navy in World War II, and it would be very meaningful to find it, and I hope that does come together. So. Next, find.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
First, do you know the coordinates of where you found it and how far off they were from the ones from your research?
We do know the coordinates. I did not share them publicly, and we won't. I mean, we also, I should point out, we worked in coordination with the Naval History and Heritage Command, and they were fully aware of what we were planning to do before we went to search for the ship. They are aware of the coordinates. NOAA is aware of them, so that this is actually the first and only historic wreck that has been found within the borders of the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. So that is a NOAA mandate now to steward the Stewart into the future. I will tell you that it was about 3 miles off from where the crew recorded the sinking. So we needed just about every one of those 5 kilometers that we added to the search box to find it.
And you mentioned, I think you just answered this, but you mentioned something about the guy asked you how many wrecks there were. Did you find other wrecks with this search, or no?
Not on this search, no. This was the only one that turned up. I'm not aware really of any other major wrecks within Cordell Bank. There are quite a few inside the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary that really surrounds it, and to the south. And I was actually I was very fortunate to be part of a few of those, where in 2015, again, thanks to Jim Delgado and Bob Schwimmer, brought me on to a project where we were able to identify the wreck of USS Conestoga, a Navy tug that had vanished in 1921, and we were able to conclusively identify it 95 years later, and then went to sea actually in 2016 on board the exploration vessel Nautilus for Ocean Exploration Trust, which is Dr. Ballard's group. On a NOAA-funded expedition, we characterized the wreck of USS Independence, which was a World War II era light carrier that was disposed of off of San Francisco as well. So this was we put the cameras on it for the first time. I got to go out on the vessel for 3 days. We actually managed to get an ROV inside the hangar deck of the ship, and we found a plane wreck inside of a shipwreck, which was an unexpected bonus. And then I just have to tell the story that, a big thing for me, because growing up, again, I was always fascinated by this stuff. And, so when I was 17, they found the Titanic. And when I went on board, it turned out that Dr. Ballard was sailing with us on the Nautilus. So my 17-year-old self is like losing his mind because he's going to go on a shipwreck expedition with Dr. Ballard. And I report on board, and first thing that happens when you go on board, you get your cabin assignment. And I go to the bulletin board and I see, okay, a cabin 16, Ballard, R, Matthews, R. So not only did I get to go on a shipwreck expedition with him, but I was his roommate for 3 days, though we were on opposite watches, and really more my concern was not stepping on his head when I got out of my bunk, the top bunk in the middle of the night to go on watch. But I'm happy to say that I didn't do that, and he does not snore. So, but anyway, okay, more.
Hi, thanks for your talk.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. I work for Ocean X, if you know
I
that.
do know it, yes. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm Ioana. I thought that the map that you shared with all the wrecks was really interesting. Is that shared with the Pink Flamingo Society?
I actually don't know what that is. I do,
Oh.
Oh, wait, it's female explorers, right?
No.
No. Okay.
Maybe
well,
it's
maybe you can
secret.
share that with the group. What is the Pink Flamingo?
I think it's not a secret. It's just like the Pink Flamingo Society is like a society that all of like the main nonprofits with research vessels are a part of.
Ah. All right.
But yeah, I mean it's a cool map of wrecks, and I was wondering if that's like top secret, or how do you share that information?
Well, I mean, you've noticed I didn't put the names on there.
Yeah.
or the a lot of them are guesses, at least in terms of the coordinates, or some of them are wrecks that have been found. I've updated as they're found. But yeah, Ocean X, you guys have a great, really cool ship.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
So I will occasionally, and that sounds like that might be a real time saver, being able to coordinate that way. But I will occasionally go on and there's a website, Marine Traffic, and you can
Yeah.
you can check and see
Yeah.
like where's Ocean at, where's Ocean Explorer
RV
1?
Ocean Explorer.
Yeah,
Google.
yeah, Ocean Explorer. Where's that one?
That's how I
Because,
find out
yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah, because there's a few places like if you guys are going, like I might, hey, why don't you let's take a look over here. So. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of thing does happen. I mean, like it happened with Ocean Infinity, not just this time, but the USS Nevada, the only battleship to get underway during Pearl Harbor, was disposed of off of Hawaii, and during the pandemic, right at the outset, Jim Delgado noticed that they had a ship that was just kind of loitering off of Hawaii because they couldn't dock. And he had done the research and knew, where that sinking exercise had taken place post-war, and they put their vehicles in the water because, they were having to quarantine out there, so they figured they might as well, do something that benefits the world, and they found the Nevada. So these things do happen, and they happen more often than not because of the kind of relationships that happen through this club, and so something like meeting Andy here, or we were able to coordinate on another project with Schmidt Ocean Institute because of relationships within the Explorers Club. So I love hearing that there's another group that's kind of doing that sort of thing and helping bring people together, because you really do find that spirit of like scientific collaboration is really out there and really alive, and people love to help each other and advance our knowledge. So
Totally.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking.
Sure.
This is cool.
Anyone? All right, we got another one. Okay.
Hey, in
Hi.
the event that there's, potentially like human remains on a wreck, are there any sort of like special precautions or considerations that you guys take when you search these out?
Yeah, absolutely. In the case of the Stewart, that was a post-war disposal, so we were absolutely certain there were no human remains on board. I mean, we still treat the site with great sensitivity and reverence. I mean, because of its service and the service of its crews, and the sailors who gave their lives on board during the course of that service. But yes, in the case of investigations, where there's a live component, and that does happen, like with Ocean Exploration Trust, especially, and NOAA, with Okeanos Explorer and Deep Discoverer. They have protocols in place that, when you're investigating, in those cases, because, the funding, certainly the funding for NOAA is federal dollars, so it comes from the taxpayers, it comes from all of us. And for Ocean Exploration Trust, gets a great deal of its funding that way too, and they're an educational organization. So one of the remarkable things is they will carry these investigations live, and they will stream them live, and you are part of the exploration. And I urge you all, like if you get a chance, to check out their websites, nautiluslive.org, and the NOAA website, the NOAA Ocean Exploration, and see what's happening with Okeanos Explorer, and see if there's live exploration going on. It's not just wrecks. I mean, they dive on seamounts and characterize ocean sea life, but you are part of it, and part of especially with searches for historic wrecks. Part of it is that anticipation and wondering, like, are you going to find anything at all? And so I think that's actually it's hugely valuable to bring people into that and give them a sense of what it really is to go out into the unknown and not be certain like what you're going to find. But to get back to your question, there are protocols in place that if that signal is going out live, that if there's any indication that there are human remains or an anticipation that you're entering an area where there could be, generally they will change the camera view that is going out to the public. So generally, like the ROVs, especially the ones that operate in deep water, are these two-body systems where you have two vehicles, and one is acting. One is as a what they call a tether management system, And so the tether, comes down from the surface and attaches to this one. And so a lot of the travel that is imparted from the surface is absorbed by this vehicle, and then there's a separate tether that comes off of that. And so the ROV is free swimming. So this is absorbing all of the motion from the surface. So, but what they will do, there's also cameras on board this one, so that if there's a situation where they think there's a likelihood or a possibility of human remains, they will switch the camera to the sort of eye in the sky while they do it, because they always want to be cognizant and sensitive to that possibility. So do we have time for more? We have, yes.
Thank you, Russ. This was really just fascinating. Did the Japanese take any interest or shed any light on what they did with the ship, how they got it out of dry dock, etc.? And what's up with that double funnel thing?
Right. Yeah. No. We do have archival documents of the whole process. We know like the name of the engineer who oversaw the whole process and what changes they had to make. It's a very long kind of technical recitation that I spared you from, but it does exist. It's a remarkable document.
Did they take interest in the findings?
Not particularly. I don't know. Because the Stewart, I don't know that it had as much meaning to the Japanese people, for its service in their Navy. So no, we didn't particularly, find that there was a lot of interest. There's been more things like, say, when we were at the site of the Battle of Midway with Ocean Exploration Trust, and then again, with NOAA. But in 2023, we were out and were able to put cameras on 2 of the Japanese carriers that were sunk at the Battle of Midway, and had Japanese historians on board. On the Nautilus, when she was on station, and then also participating virtually. And so there was a great deal of interest in that, in ships that were built and served their entire careers, with the Japanese Navy.
And the funnel?
The funnel, I don't know. That's a good question. That's just it's a design quirk. Maybe there's a naval architect who could tell us why, is there an advantage to trunking them together like that? But it was a very distinctive feature. If you go and look at, especially the ship design for the Imperial Navy in that era, they all tend to have that. They have that sort of streamlined, trunked, funnel. And so I think it was one of the things that they did. And they did it as much just for the recognition, just so that they would, avoid, kind of a friendly fire situation. And even then, it was still kind of fooling some people, thinking that it was an Allied ship that was, operating deep behind enemy lines. So, all right, do we have time for any more?
I think there's one more.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have a question.
Okay.
Hello. I'm just wondering, do you think that the ship will stay there forever?
Yes. So the question was, do you think the ship will remain there forever? And yes, it's in 1,000 meters of water. It's quite large, and it would be a very complex artifact to bring up, to care for. As soon as if you ever were able to, and I guess everything's possible with enough, cubic yards of money, you could do it, but the technical challenge of once it's exposed to the air again, it would begin to corrode, and so the process, unless you're prepared, for the immense challenge of preserving a vessel of that size, and over the long term. It's actually better off where it is, in situ, in context, and as part of the marine environment now, and it's reached a kind of stasis. A lot of them do that once they've been there for a while, they reach this kind of stasis point within the environment, and it's survived remarkably well, for nearly 80 years, and it tells an amazing story. right where it is. So
Yeah.
so I think it will stay there, but it's an interesting thing to contemplate.
The photo where it was kind of halfway in, halfway out of the water just made me a little sad. So I was like, will it ever come back?
Yeah.
But I guess it's better.
No,
that-
I think everyone found that somewhat bittersweet, but
it
but
humanized
does
it a little
speak,
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, to how I mean, even these like men that had fought a world war, like still like
Yeah.
kind of had a soft spot
Yeah.
for this ship. So.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll do one more question, and then we'll invite everyone who wants to continue the discourse downstairs to the bar, which is normally members only, but we open to the public for the Monday lectures.
Right. And we all know who
Yeah.
the members are in the room.
And it might be the
So-
start of another great expedition. You never know. Like that's where they all begin. So.
Russ, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing up the human side of things, and thank you for sharing that beautiful story of August 1st, because that really touched my heart. But what I
Thank you.
what I took away is almost like the wreck is never silenced. Almost 80 years later, is still listening. And it really still tells that story. But I was also thinking about the success story where we have science, we have history, and we have the technology come together to make that happen. And I think that really highlights the spirit of leadership and exploration. Can you speak a little bit about that? Just like, what would be the takeaway you would like all of us to have afterwards?
Well, I don't know. I think you said it beautifully just now. But it really speaks to, I mean, in the founding documents of this organization, it talks about creating, a place of uniting explorers in the bonds of good fellowship, and bringing everyone together makes it so much more possible when we're together and we're collaborating and networking. And I think the club is now achieved that at a level that I don't think the founders really could have envisioned. With the way that now, I mean, this talk now is reaching out, beyond the walls of this room, and through social media, and it will, as I understand it, be, shared and reshared, and so, it's incredible the way it's able to bring us together, but it's through, that's one of the reasons why I just really love this organization, and it's now after being a member for 34 years, but especially in recent years, it has really come home to me that the more you put into it, the more you get out. So the more you give to your fellow members, the more it comes back to you, and it's happened in spades, not just professionally, but personally. I met my wife through the club. So it's just one of the most incredible things. And I mean, I mentioned, so Lonnie Shore, who found the document from the Chief of Naval to the Chief of Naval Operations, was the one who introduced us. And what was incredible was like that. So this story debuted October 1st. It was in the science section of the New York Times, and so it came out October 1st that we announced the discovery of the Stewart. On October 23rd. An episode of Expedition Unknown with fellow club member Josh Gates premiered, and it featured an expedition that we were part of, that we led, really, off of Puerto Rico, searching for a lost Pan American airliner, which is another story. But if you watch season 14, episode 3 of Expedition Unknown, you can find out a lot more about it. But so that was October 23rd. And that wasn't even the best thing that happened to me that month, related to the, of any month, but also related to Explorers Club, because we got married on October 26th. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, like this is an incredible group, and I love that you were talking about that, how the project itself like represented like so many different people had to come together to bring their piece to this to make it happen. Not one of us on our own was ever going to do this. It was working together and working and pulling those different the different expertise and passions and connections and technology and expertise and knowledge like came together and gave us this result. And I think it speaks for itself. So thank you very much for being here. And I'm happy to answer. If anyone has any more questions, I'll be around. So, please come on up and let's keep that networking going. So thank you.